Okay, this is Sunday, the 11th of February, 2024, or is it the 12th? Whatever. I need to do this before I get too far into it. Replacing this throttle cable, and of course, like everything else, it's almost impossible to get to. So before we get too far into it, we've already got it disconnected back here at the throttle body back there. And now we just need to pinch these two little things on the side and get that cable out, and then do the same thing under the dash and then replace this cable. Our problem is it's very difficult to get to, and we've got to squeeze these two little clamps there on the side together to get it back through that hole. We'll just have to show you how that attaches. But I was going to take the top off that throttle body, but the bolt's turning. I'm going to have to put something on at the top, that way I can get to that a little bit better to squeeze these things together, but I might be able to reach them from the back. So let me show you from what it looks like from the back. Okay, there it is up there. I'm going to squeeze those side clamp things to get that cable out. And back here, the way it attached, it comes underneath this right here. That cable comes through there, comes up, the cable goes into there, and you slide that bar into that slot, and that's what catches it. So we've got to get maybe a long pair of needle nose pliers. Might be able to get up there and get that and squeeze it. And then on the other side over here at the pedal, I haven't even looked at it yet. It's attached up there somewhere. I can't even see it right now. We'll deal with that when we get onto that, once we get this cable undone over here. Okay, instead of trying to pinch that thing together, we're going to remove that mounting bracket. That bolt right there, that little nut right there, and that nut right there are 10 millimeter. We're going to take those off, pull that bracket up, and squeeze that, and then put that cable back in, and hopefully we will be able to get those nuts back on without too much difficulty. So we've already broke them loose. Let's take it off and see how that goes, and then we'll feed this thing back through and check on that pedal side, see what all it's going to be. I don't think it'll be too difficult to figure out. Okay, we're just going to squeeze those, pull that cable out, then we'll get underneath the dash, disconnect it from the pedal, figure out what that is, and run this cable back up. First, we're going to compare the cable we have, which was $58 with tax. Run it back up there, and but we'll compare it first, make sure it's the same cable, same length. So let's finish unconnecting that and then get it out from the pedal. Well, we finally just cut these. I just couldn't get them squeezed together far enough to come through that slot. Now the problem is, now we only measured, the cables are the same, but I'm going to have that same problem. These squeeze clamps are inside there, where the pedal is. I got the pedal disconnected, but I'm going to have a very difficult time trying to get up there and squeeze those things together to get that cable out. Just on up yonder. Yeah, there you go. Up there. So we'll see what we can do. Okay, we got that out. We had to cut some of the insulation and the little cover over some of the insulation so we could get to those squeeze locks to get that out. But we got it out. We're going to start over here. We're going to put this thing back in this bracket, connect it back to the throttle body, and then run it through that hole over there. I started to do this first, but I think that would be backwards. I think we can, I think we'll be able to do that better after we get this over here connected. Okay, I don't know how good this is going to be, but as you can see what I did, that little round piece where the cable is hooked to, I pulled it around, stuck it in that hole, then rotated counterclockwise that throttle control down, and then worked the cable into that slot and on around to the front. And that got it connected back in. We've got it tighten up those bolts, or we took the bracket off up there, and then put this cable in over there on the pedal side and get it all squared away. We're also going to do some cleaning up back here. We finally got this leak, or mostly squared away and fixed. Looks like it's coming out of the valve cover right here some. But the second shop, the first shop, they just almost refused to see that it was rear main seal leaking. But all this up here is dry now. It's just this valve cover leaking some right here. And so we're going to clean that up. I don't know that I'm going to try to do anything with that valve cover. It's probably squeezed out a little bit. Where they put the valve covers on, they didn't do it right, just like about everything else they did. Messed that throttle cable up. Okay. Well, let's see about getting that pedal side squared away and those bolts tightened down on that bracket and wrap this thing up. Okay, we've got this stuff out here connected back now. Both my light batteries are dead, so I'm having to use the phone, and I'm having to use one zoom in. And I sort of made a mess of that. We got another little push clamp to hold that in. And see, this is where it's been coming along all along, and you can even see the rub marks where it's been for years and years. And when they put it back together, they got this cable down in there, and the fan clipped it and pinched that thing and messed it up. So now we've got that in. We've got it in the little clamp right back here. We just need to hook it in down here at the pedal. Put all this other stuff back together. And also we're doing some cleaning on the engine over there. We already sprayed some brake cleaner on it. We'll get everything hooked back up and going. And for people who like to know, oil pressure sending unit right here. Fuel lines. That's where you can pull off pressure, check your pressure. For your fuel line, I guess that's a return. Let's see, what is this here? What is that doing right up against that? What cable is that? I don't know what that cable is. I'll have to check that out. Of course, distributor cap, distributor, coil. Like I said, this is a 5.7 liter V8. Try to keep these plug wires away from the inside of that. And they're not holding good, are they? From the inside of that engine cover. They don't want to. They just don't want to stay in those holders. I guess I missed a bunch of that. I'm trying to get that little wire. I'm going to zip tie that little wire up off of that thing there. Okay, well, let's get this pedal reconnected. Crawl underneath there and get that back in. See, I had to cut that right there to get where I could even get to those pinchers, those locks, to open it back up to get up there to get that cable out. So let's finish this up in here, put our other stuff back on, and wrap this up. Okay, see, we had to cut this out so we could get to those locks to get that cable out. we pushed it right back in. It's locked in and it's pushed in, and the accelerator works. So we will put everything else back together. I've missed the pedal. The pedal's been gone 15 years, I guess, or more. This is a transmission shift cable. I had to replace it about 12 years ago. 11, 12 years ago. What's that? It's not leaking, is it? No, it's not. Okay. I do have a video on removing this clip that holds the Hydro Boost rod into the brake pedal. It's rather aggravating, but I've got a video showing how to release it or get it off, and also put it back on, along with removing and replacing the Hydro Boost. That's nasty, isn't it? But that's 24 years. We bought this van new in 2000, April of 2000. Okay, let's wrap the rest of it out up top, and I've also got a video of replacing that anti-theft deterrent module, which is hiding right up back there. It's hard to get to, hard to see everything, but that's it, sitting right back there. Okay, we have the engine cover back on, and it is correct. The first shop had this thing off about 4 or 5 times, and they never got it back on correctly. If you'll notice, you've got the straps to tighten these or pull these last 2 latches down. The springs are connected respectively on each side. It crosses over, and you've got that dot, which tells you goes out. And if you think you've got it close, but you don't see these 2 latches, if you just see this, you got to get it another 1.5 inches, 2 inches further. So anyway, that's got that right. I wanted to show you that. We're going to finish up the outside before we put that cover back on, and then we will crank it up and see how things are going. Okay, we've reinstalled our mass airflow sensor and the 2 plugs. I forgot what sensors those 2 are, but make sure you plug them in. You're going to get a check engine light code. And now, see, this is the way that cable is supposed to be, running across there. When they got it back together, they had that cable running in here. It caught the fan and messed it up, or the fan caught it and messed it up. And I've sort of boogered that up, but it'll be okay. Then we're going to put the air filter on, put the water reservoir back on, finish up this, and we'll crank it and check it out. Okay, we got it all back together. Everything's in its place. Didn't have any nuts and bolts left over. Didn't have any short. We weren't missing any. Didn't have any extra. It's probably not even going to crank. If you don't have something extra or missing a couple. Okay, well, let's head out and see how it does. Okay, going down the road, let's see how it's going to do. Back to Lowe's and swap, or 2 of them, one for Frank, one for me, Craftsman. Mine is the original ratchet I had, bought in 1967. Seems to be doing perfect. That's all we worked on today. We did clean some oil up. There's a little bit of a leak coming out of the back passenger side rear valve cover. I didn't tighten the valve cover up. I may ought to have just tightened it a little bit, but I got a feeling they tightened it too much when they put the engine in and squeezed the gasket out of it. Is what I'm thinking, and I didn't want to fool with it, so just cleaned it up, didn't fool with it. I don't guess Lowe's will give me any grief about these ratchets. They didn't last time. I had a swivel head ratchet that had lasted about 30 years. It broke. Fill up with gas too. This gas gauge has been messing up. It'll bounce from dead empty to dead full and back and forth and go to the middle. I don't know if it's a fuel pump. There's a new fuel pump in it. That's the second one. That's the third one. Came with one. My son and I swapped one out. Then I let Frank swap this last one out. So this is the third Delphi fuel pump that's been in this thing. So I don't know if it's a dash gauge package or whether it is the fuel pump sending unit. But something is amiss. Well, this throttle cable seems to be doing fine, so I think we'll go ahead and cut this off. This will be a wrap. Unless something else messes up.